The New York Rangers are planning something big, as a new report has revealed who Chris Drury is looking to hire as the next head coach of the New York Rangers. We're going to break that down, as well as some comments and insight from players as to what went wrong this season. And a lot of the comments and what exactly went wrong will have serious implications on the future of this team's roster. We're going to break that down in this episode of Rangers Digest. But before we do that, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 74% of you now, as we've had an influx of new viewers on the channel the last little while. So welcome in, everyone. 74% of you who watch these videos are not actually subscribed to the channel. So if you want to stay up to date with everything that's happening with the New York Rangers, it's free. Hit that subscribe button down below. And again, you get to stay up to date with everything that's going to happen with this team through the offseason into next season. And the support of everyone who is subscribed has been unbelievable all season long. But let's waste no more time. Let's jump right into it. We finally have some insight into who Chris Drury is targeting as the next head coach of the New York Rangers, and it will surprise some fans. But we do have to get to this first in terms of who won't be the next head coach of the New York Rangers. And we can officially rule out from a couple reports from a couple different insiders that Joel Quenneville, formerly of the Chicago Blackhawks and the Florida Panthers, Joel Quenneville will not be the next head coach of the New York Rangers. And as you can see here, this is from both Vince Mercogliano, we'll get to a quote from him in a second, and also Larry Brooks, both reporting that while there is an expectation that Quenneville will return to an NHL bench next season, but there is likely a mutual recognition that this will not provide the softest landing spot for his re-entry to the league. So doesn't sound like it's going to happen in New York for Joel Quenneville with his return to the NHL. And as you can see here, this is from Larry Brooks in the full quote. The New York Rangers will not reach out to Joel Quenneville in their pursuit of a new head coach. And indeed, while there is expectation that Quenneville will return, officially reinstated for this hiring cycle following his suspension, and we all know why. His return behind an NHL bench next season, the Post has been told that the Rangers will not reach out to him, and there is likely, again, a mutual recognition that this will not be, a good spot for him. So that is very interesting in of itself. So who is going to be the next head coach of the New York Rangers? Well, we do have some insight into that as well. It's looking like it could be Mike Sullivan. Yes, Mike Sullivan, who is still the Pittsburgh Penguins head coach. So how are the Rangers going to get him out of there? We'll talk about that in a second, but this is from Vince Mercogliano. I still very much believe that Mike Sullivan, is going to be at the top of the New York Rangers list, and they're going to try really, really hard to get him. But after that, it's going to be kind of interesting if they're not able to make that happen. Now, there is a lot coming out. And again, this is from Vince Mercogliano. The feeling amongst two league sources is that he'll yet again prioritize experienced candidates. And this is Chris Drury will prioritize experienced candidates. That doesn't mean he's going to hire a experienced candidate. He did come out and say that the other day as well. And with Pittsburgh's Mike Sullivan serving as his number one target, but if he can't pry the two-time Stanley Cup winner away from the Penguins, don't be surprised to see a few familiar faces enter the fray, including John Tortorella, which we touched on in another video. And the Rangers' level of interest is unclear, but word is John Tortorella wants to keep coaching after being dismissed by the Flyers earlier last month. Now, John Tortorella, bad idea. Mike Sullivan, good idea, but Mike Sullivan is still the coach of the Pittsburgh Penguins. So how do you get him out of there? Well, you back up the Brinks truck and you can say, come over to New York and resign from your job. So that is an option. But there are some interesting things coming out of Pittsburgh right now, where Kyle Dubas had his end of season availability yesterday, and he said that he was asked about Mike Sullivan and if he would be back next year. Mike Sullivan is still under contract, so keep that in mind. And the answer wasn't as clear-cut as you might think. So he went on to say, and this is Kyle Dubas, GM of the Pittsburgh Penguins, and he went on to say, I haven't had any postseason meetings with Sully, just with the way the season ended, and with it being a holiday, so I'll meet with Sully tomorrow, and that was yesterday. We don't have any insight into what was said or what was discussed, but Sully is under contract. I think he was very clear with his intentions last week and what he's expressed in our conversations. I'll meet with Mike tomorrow, and sort through everything. I think with a coach like Sully, he's an elite level coach, as he's shown through his time here, as well as Team USA. Again, multiple time Stanley Cup champion at this point. There's always the point that very few coaches who are in that realm often want to see a team through this, but he's been very open to that this is what he wants to do. So we'll just continue to reaffirm that. And as long as he's on that side of it, we will roll with it. So it wasn't as clear cut. It does sound like maybe they want to retain his services, but again, it doesn't sound as clear cut as a lot of people were making it out to sound. So again, I think that Chris Drury is going to do everything in his power. If it doesn't work out, which is a very likely scenario, then they're going to pivot and look at maybe some inexperience, some guys out of college. I think they can definitely go that route as well. So it's going to be interesting to see who they really narrow down. But in terms of number one choice and who they want to target, it's Mike Sullivan from the Pittsburgh Penguins. So I think that's going to be very interesting. And again, you have to be careful with some tampering stuff as well. You know, the Rangers have gotten in a lot of trouble this season amongst the fans, everything that's happened. So let's be careful with that stuff. But, you know, definitely an option still. And I think that they're going to try and get him out of Pittsburgh. And if you take a look at his coaching record throughout his entire career, I mean, again, the last couple seasons in Pittsburgh haven't been that great, but he's had some very good seasons still. And I mean, 103 points in 2021, 2022 as well. And I mean, again, he's put together some great seasons and he's won multiple Stanley Cups. So we all know what he can do with the Pittsburgh Penguins. So it's going to be very interesting, or what he has done with the Pittsburgh Penguins. So it's going to be very interesting to keep an eye on that if he does become the head coach of the New York Rangers somehow at this point. But one other thing I wanted to touch on before we wrap up here is how some of the players were treated this year. And again, it is your job to go out and play, but I feel like what we've talked about the last little while is the players don't need to be the GM. They don't need to know what the GM is doing. But I do think that there needs to be some communication between coach and player, and I feel like a lot of this stuff falls on the coach's shoulders. He's not here anymore, and this is, you know, plays into hiring a new coach as well. And this is what I've been waiting for. This is from Snark Messier, and Molly Walker had this the other day from Locker Cleanout Day as well. Calvin DeHaan said he was under the impression he would play when he came to New York. There was a verbal exchange. And he said, it might have just been a teleprompter answer, frankly. Just welcome to the team, that kind of thing. They alluded to the fact that I was part of a trade for a Ranger who was a good Ranger for a long time. I was told I was going to be part of the team moving forward and get an opportunity. As we all know, he didn't get that opportunity. Calvin DeHaan played in 2 games for the New York Rangers and got scratched for 18 games, 18 straight games after that. And I thought this was an interesting tweet from this Twitter user. Here are the games he played. And let's take a look at the impact score charts from the games he played. This is the first one against the Nashville Predators. Look where he is on the impact score chart. Very minimal negative impact, lots of positive impact. That's a great start for his first game. Also take in and notice that this was a 4-0 win against the Nashville Predators. Great. Again, a lesser opponent, but a great win. His second game with the New York Rangers after the trade deadline. He's 4th here on the list. No negative impact whatsoever, only positive impact on the game. This was against the New York Islanders in his second game. As you can notice here, the final score, another 4-0 shutout, back-to-back 4-0 shutouts for the New York Rangers. After this, I believe he played one more game, and he was healthy scratch for 18 games in a row. I think that is bad, not only asset management, but bad coaching. You're not utilizing the best players on your team. Again, Peter Laviolette's gone, but those are mistakes that the new coach cannot make, and they have to be very careful with who they hire next. And if he can handle younger players, specifically because this team is getting younger, and not mismanage things like that with Calvin DeHaan, who's a veteran who's coming in and putting in really, really good numbers in his time with the Rangers. I mean, I would be really upset if I was him too. It makes no sense. That's the problem. It just makes absolutely no sense. So let me know in the comments who you think will be the Rangers' next head coach. It's looking like they're going to try everything they can to get Mike Sullivan out of Pittsburgh, but the options are going to be plentiful, I think, if it doesn't go that way, because there's a lot of shuffling of coaches going on around the league right now, so they're going to have a lot of coaches to choose from. Again, they can go to the college route, so we'll see what happens with that. And let me know what you think about the mismanagement of some of the players, not only from management, we know that this year, the players don't need to know everything, but more specifically, coaching staff last season. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers.